Well, hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to 2CTV. The honeymoon period for Keir Starmer and his new Labour cabinet is truly over. He's getting attacked from left, right and centre, from his own left-wing backbench MPs, but also from, of course, the newcomers, the independent Islamist pro-Gaza MPs who are creating a new parliamentary bloc in the House of Commons, almost like a new smaller political party, to get together with the godfather of far-left Islamism, Jeremy Corbyn. In this video, we're going to give you guys the latest update as these MPs have now gone together to write a threatening letter to the government. Yes, it's not going too well for this new Parliament, the new House of Commons with the new MPs. We've got so many different ideas coming out of the new parliamentarians. For the first time in a very long time, a huge chunk of MPs who had to be sworn in over the last few days to become officially MPs did it under protest. So essentially, they went against our constitution and they only showed allegiance under protest just to be able to officially become MPs. And also it's the first time we have a number of Islamists who are, the numbers are increasing in Parliament, the number of MPs. And now a few of them here obviously have decided to write a letter using Jeremy Corbyn as their mentor. That's another beauty, isn't it? It's funny because this letter, which I'm going to show you, look at the right. They've written it to David Lammy, obviously, the Foreign Secretary, so you could give it to Keir Starmer. Look at the date on the top right. This letter is from 2 days ago. 11th of June. It's July. They don't even know what date it is. Oh, so shambolic. It's supposed to say July, okay? Anyway, let's see what happens. Dear Foreign Secretary. Good start. We, the undersigned, have been elected by our respective constituents in part to represent their concerns regarding the ongoing catastrophic situation in Gaza, which has been described by the International Court of Justice as a plausible genocide. That's a good start, isn't it? There is no doubt that you will be aware that the situation on the ground in Gaza worsens moment by moment. The urgency for action cannot be underestimated. But actually, it's getting slightly better, the situation, not worse, but okay. As of the 9th of July, unless I got the date right there, 2 days before, a group of independent UN experts have declared that famine has now spread throughout the Gaza Strip, with the recent deaths of more Palestinian children due to hunger, solidifying the urgency of the matter. Maybe you should have a conversation with the leadership in Gaza to start giving them the humanitarian aid that keeps being sent from Egypt and Israel. But no, nobody wants to talk to Yahya Sinwar, apparently. This thing gets worse. Let's see. The rest of the letter says, Gaza's Ministry of Health, oh yeah, that's a credible organization, holds the death toll since October at 38,000. However, a study published in the journal The Lancet estimates that even a conservative measure of the death toll in Gaza could exceed 186,000. The study points out that the official death toll does not take into account the thousands of people buried under the rubble, nor the indirect deaths caused by the destruction of health facilities, food distribution systems, and the breakdown of other public infrastructure. This is the first letter that these British MPs, as in UK-based MPs, have written. Instead of talking about their own constituents and local issues, they are very much experts in what's happening in Gaza, apparently. In addition, the study finds that disease and starvation will lead to many more deaths in the long term. At the same time, the cost of living crisis is making things worse in those constituencies, but the MPs don't care. Given the above highlighted factors and in light of the provisional measures issued by the International Court of Justice, we write to you to remind you of your government's obligations under international law. We call upon you to undertake the following actions as a matter of urgency. These are the list of demands that they have now. Number 1. Immediately suspend all provisional weapons and weapon systems to the government of Israel. Number 2. Immediately restore and increase UK funding to UNRWA and take all necessary steps to ensure the safe access and delivery of essential supply. It's not the UK government's business. It's none of your business. Go talk to Yahya Sinwar and Ismail Haniyeh. Number 3, issue a public statement supporting the implementation of measures as advised by the International Court of Justice. 4, drop any legal challenge over the ICC's right to seek an arrest warrant against Benjamin Netanyahu. 5, issue a public statement to announce the cessation of the challenge of the International Criminal Court concerning the arrest warrant for Prime Minister Netanyahu. Utilize the United Kingdom's position as a permanent member state on the United Nations Security Council to advocate for an immediate and sustainable ceasefire. And then, bunch of clowns. Number 7, facilitate and engage in exhausting all diplomatic efforts to secure the prompt release of all hostages. That's good to know. Advocate for the deployment of a United Nations peacekeeping force to Gaza upon reaching a ceasefire agreement. Number 9, impose sanctions on individuals and entities inciting genocide against Palestinians. Suspend the 2030 roadmap for the UK-Israel bilateral relations and negotiations towards an expanded trade agreement, and consider the possibility of imposing sanctions on an ally. Recognize the state of Palestine with immediate effect. How? I mean, you can't recognize something that doesn't exist. Oh, how many times? We urge you to implement these actions as crucial steps towards the elevation of a catastrophic situation in Gaza and fulfill the obligations of the United Kingdom under international law. Yes, who signed it? Jeremy Corbyn, of course. Adnan Hussein, Ayub Khan, Iqbal Muhammad, Shaukat Adam. The absolute state of the British Parliament in 2024, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, that gave me a headache. That was a long list of demands. Imagine if a group of Jews came up with a list of demands to the Foreign Secretary and send out like a list of demands. We demand you to annihilate the Palestinians. They don't do that. So crazy. Absolutely crazy stuff. All right. Let's see what the reaction is in the live chat from you guys. We've got super chats. First one says, regarding the last stream, I need YouTube to stop demonetizing these. That'll be a good start. RG from Israel says, not only did 187,000 died in Gaza, 186,000 of them are pregnant children with special needs who donated annually to Greenpeace. Give me a break. Fair. We got Peter. He's got his own demands. Number 1, increase weapon systems to Israel. Number 2, no funding to the third world. Number 3, issue public statement in support to Israel. My counter statement, according to Peter. Another one says, Starmer's response should be to remove the whip immediately. They have more than enough majorities. These are not the Labour MPs. You can't remove the whips of MPs who are not part of his party. You can only remove whips if they're part of your party, obviously. But they're not. They're just increasing the number of independent MPs and, of course, all the other weirdos. That's how they're going to be taking over the House in the future. Truth Blitz says, tell them what to do with their letter. Their attitude towards Israel is shocking. It's not just towards Israel. This isn't just about Israel. Their attitudes towards their own constituents. This is the first letter and the first act they've done as MPs in this new parliament. Instead of talking about the problems in their own constituencies, they're talking about an imaginary state that doesn't actually exist. Crazy. Donna says they are liars. Go demand somewhere else. Just send out the letter to Yahya Sinwar and Ismail Haniyeh and the rest of the leadership in Gaza. Simple. Mike says Starmer will fold to these demands like the wet paper bag that he is. What a tosser. Well, he has to be seen strong and stable if he wants to keep his relationship with the other Western countries. But yeah, I don't know what he's going to do. It's going to be crazy. He's going to do some sort of symbolic recognition of the Palestinian state because it's promised in his manifesto. But it wouldn't mean anything. It's just a symbolic, basically, recognition. It doesn't really do anything. Mark Sterling says, this country is effed because of very weaknesses from those in power. I agree. They're all mental, isn't it? Janet says, they are utterly stupid nut jobs. A bunch of clowns is 100% correct. Who on earth do they think they are? Absolutely stupid people. Corbyn is pathetic. Well, the thing is, Corbyn is loving it because he's basically become the new leader of these MPs. Unofficially, he's the new party leader of the independent MPs, and that's why he was the one who helped them write it. Do you think those new stupid Islamist MPs, where are the photos, like this one, Adnan and all the other, do you think they have the intelligence to write that letter? Of course they don't. Jeremy Corbyn helped them and his team because he's got the experience in Parliament to word it the right way, basically. King Jim, super chat, thank you. This is the reaping of what we've sown. I'm not surprised by this at all. Me neither. But this is just the beginning. Robert says the left, due to their Marxist leanings, need the oppressor victim narrative to sell their policies. Mass immigration ensures that there is a steady supply of new victims for them to champion. This is basically a perfect summary of what most of the problems we're currently having in the West is. Everything goes back to this. Whether it's the liberal left or the actual socialist, Marxist leaning ones, everything goes back to the narrative of the oppressor and the victim, the underdog and the powerful, so that they could come out and say, it's okay, I will be your champion. You know, the reason you're having problems in your life is someone else's fault. It's the Jews and the bankers and all that. So what we're going to do is we'll take control of everything and we'll be your savior. All you have to do is just support us and we'll give you freebies instead. And you can bring your family members and relatives and dependents from your original countries. David says, I said years ago that we will start allowing them into parliament and eventually we will get a Muslim prime minister and certain cities will be allowed Sharia. So I've said this, David is spot on, by the way. I've said this quite recently that because it's already started, obviously people like David predicted this years ago. Now that it's happening, within the next probably 3 elections, let's just be generous, 4 elections from now, we could easily have 20%, 25% of the House potentially going that way, unless things change, unless we become radical, because of the breeding of the new generation. So within the next, for example, 20, 30 years, more babies are being born now anyway into certain areas in Birmingham, in Luton, in Glasgow, in Manchester, even in East London, the Islamic community. And they're going to become adults, and some of them are already children, and they are being brainwashed by the local imams, and they'll become 18 and in their 20s, and then they'll become candidates, and there'll be more of them to support to get the votes. And if you get 20-25% of parliament being ideologically Islamist, then they can implement any law and legislation they want, and they can even change the constitution because they will have the backing of the socialist left. They don't need to have 51% of parliament. They simply need about 25% to get that done. And the constitution will change, and of course a lot of things that our freedoms will go away. Blasphemy laws will come, and censorship. Pubs might get banned. Again, this is over time, but as David also said, slowly you will see certain towns and constituencies that will say, we have locally decided a local referendum to basically, for example, ban pubs or ban alcohol. Of course, the Westminster establishment will have to fight against it legally, but they're going to basically do it unofficially. They're just going to make things hard for local pubs to remain open. They're going to bully them. They're going to leave. They're going to close down the pubs. And that's just the start. Because there's a different worldview to the Western liberal system. That's all. They think they're right. We think we're right. There's a difference. It's a clash of worldviews. that we are having. That's why it's just not compatible. You can't have it. Super chat from Pure Blood saying, just saying hi to your good self and everybody. Would a valid argument for an election rerun be the amount of pencil votes erased and reassigned? But you need evidence for that. That's the thing. There's no evidence of any sort of vote being erased there, because at least some of the candidates would have actually raised that, but they haven't, including Reform UK and Tories. Nobody's actually raised that issue. It's never been obviously risen. It's historically been pencils throughout history, and that hasn't really changed. I don't understand what the obsession is with pencils. Just give people pens. Just do it. It's not difficult, is it? It'll be safer to have pen than pencils anyway, just in case, obviously. But this is the absolute state of the new House of Commons, ladies and gentlemen, and this was a list of demands that these guys now have of this new government and new Prime Minister. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Maya Tusi, and we are the media.